The ancient drums beat slowly in the sacred grove as Keller prepared himself for the journey. He was the eldest shaman of the Talvari people, a race of blue-skinned beings who had walked their forest world for 10,000 generations. His people believed in the spirit realm, a place beyond the physical universe where the ancestors lived and watched over the living. Tonight, under the 3 moons of his world, Keller would attempt to enter that sacred space once more. Around him, his tribe gathered in silence. Children held their mothers' hands. Warriors stood with heads bowed in respect. The young apprentice shaman, a female named Cyril, watched with wide eyes as her master began the ritual. She had never seen anyone actually enter the spirit world. Most shamans only touched its edges, seeing visions and hearing whispers. But Keller was different. Keller was special. The old shaman sat cross-legged on the sacred stone that had been placed in this grove by the first of their kind. He closed his 4 eyes and began to chant the ancient words. His voice rose and fell like waves on a distant shore. The air around him seemed to shimmer and dance. Then something remarkable happened. His blue skin began to glow with a soft white light. The glow spread from his chest outward, covering his entire body until he looked like a star had fallen to the ground and taken the shape of a man. Syrah gasped. The stories were true. The spirit world was real, and her master was crossing into it. Keller felt himself leave his physical form behind. He floated upward, passing through layers of existence that normal beings could never see. Colors he had no names for swirled around him. Sounds that were not sounds filled his mind. He had done this many times before, but it never became ordinary. The spirit realm was always beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. He rose higher and higher until he reached the place where the ancestors were supposed to wait. But something was wrong. The spirits of his people were not there. Instead, he found himself in a vast darkness that stretched forever in all directions. For the first time in his long life, Keller felt fear grip his heart. Then he saw the lights. Millions of them. Billions of them. They filled the darkness like fireflies in a summer night. Each light was a different color and a different brightness. Some burned with fierce intensity. Others glowed softly like embers. And as Keller watched, he realized that each light was a mind. Each light was a consciousness. He was not alone in the spirit realm. He was surrounded by the thoughts and souls of countless beings. One of the lights approached him. It was warm and golden, and it pulsed with a gentle rhythm like a heartbeat. Keller felt no hostility from it, only curiosity. The light touched his spirit form, and suddenly information flooded into his mind. Images, concepts, and feelings that were not his own filled every corner of his being. He saw a small blue world orbiting a yellow star. He saw creatures that looked somewhat like his own people, but with only 2 arms and 2 eyes. They had pale skin of many different colors, from light pink to deep brown. They called themselves humans, and their history unfolded before him like a story told at lightning speed. He saw them crawl out of caves with stone tools. He saw them build villages, then cities, then machines that flew through the air. He saw them fight terrible wars that killed millions of their own kind. He saw them nearly destroy themselves with weapons that turned matter into pure energy. But then he saw something that made his spirit form weep with wonder. They survived. They chose to survive. They looked at the destruction they had caused and decided to be better. They reached out to the stars, not with weapons, but with questions. They sent messages into the void, asking if anyone was listening. They built ships that could cross the darkness between stars, not to conquer, but to explore and to learn. The golden light showed him more. It showed him humans finding other species among the stars. Some were peaceful. Some were hostile. But no matter what they encountered, the humans approached with the same stubborn hope. They believed that understanding was possible. They believed that enemies could become friends. They had learned this lesson the hard way, through their own blood and tears. and they carried it with them wherever they went. Keller understood now. The spirit realm was not a place for the dead. It was a place where all conscious minds were connected across the universe. Every species that developed the ability to touch this realm added their lights to the infinite darkness. And the humans, these strange two-armed creatures from a small blue world, had not only found this place, but had learned to navigate it. The golden light pulsed again, and Keller felt a question forming in his mind. The human consciousness was asking if Keller's people wanted to meet. Not in the spirit realm, but in the physical universe. A ship could be sent. Contact could be made. The Talvari would not have to be alone anymore. Keller thought of his people. He thought of their struggles and their triumphs. He thought of Sierra and all the young ones who would inherit whatever future the current generation created. For 10,000 generations, his species had believed they were special. They had believed they were the only ones who could touch the spirit realm. Now he knew the truth. They were not special. They were one voice in a chorus of millions. But somehow, that made everything more precious, not less. He sent his answer back to the golden light. Yes, the Talvari wanted to meet these humans. They wanted to learn from beings who had seen the worst of themselves and still chose hope. The golden light brightened with what Keller could only interpret as joy. Then it sent him one final gift. It showed him how the humans saw his people. Through some technology he could not understand, they had watched his world from afar. They had seen the sacred groves and the 3 moons. They had observed the shamans entering their glowing trances and had recognized what was happening. The humans had a word for it. They called it psionic ability. They had studied it, mapped it, and learned to enhance it with their machines. But they had never found a species that possessed it as naturally as the Talvari. To the humans, Keller's people were not primitive forest dwellers performing silly rituals. They were masters of a rare and powerful gift. They were valuable. They were wonderful. Keller felt tears streaming down his spirit form. All his life, he had wondered if the universe cared about his small people on their small world. Now he knew. Somewhere out there, across distances that made his mind ache to contemplate, beings had looked at the Talvari and seen something worth knowing. The golden light began to fade. The human consciousness was withdrawing, but not before sending one last message. The ship would arrive in 3 cycles of their fastest moon. The humans would come in peace. They would bring gifts and questions. They would bring their stories if the Talvari would share theirs. And together, perhaps they could add something new to the great chorus of minds that filled the spirit realm. Keller began his descent back to his physical body. As he fell through the layers of existence, he saw the other lights of the spirit realm watching him go. Millions of species, millions of perspectives, all connected in this strange place beyond space and time. And somewhere among them, the warm golden glow of humanity pulsed like a beacon for those who had lost their way. His eyes opened. The sacred grove came back into focus. The drums had stopped, and everyone was staring at him with expressions of awe and concern. The glow that had covered his body was fading, the white light sinking back into his blue skin like water into sand. Sierra rushed forward and helped him to his feet. The old shaman looked at his people. He looked at their hopeful faces and their worried eyes. He thought about what he had to tell them. Everything was about to change. Their world, their beliefs, their entire understanding of their place in the universe was about to be transformed. Some would welcome this change. Others would fear it. But Keller knew that change was coming, whether they welcomed it or not. He raised his hands, and the crowd fell silent. His voice was rough from the chanting, but it carried clearly through the night air. He told them about the lights in the darkness. He told them about the humans and their small blue world. He told them about the ship that was coming with beings who wanted to be friends. And he told them the most important thing of all. They were not alone. They had never been alone. The universe was filled with minds reaching out through the darkness, searching for connection and understanding. The spirit realm that their ancestors had discovered was not a private place for the Talvari. It was a meeting ground for all conscious beings who had learned to find it. And now, finally, someone had reached back. The reactions were mixed. Some of the warriors looked frightened. Some of the elders looked skeptical. But the children looked excited, and Sarah looked like she had just witnessed the birth of a new star. Keller understood all of these responses. He had felt all of them himself in the spirit realm. Over the following days, Keller worked to prepare his people. He held councils with the elders and training sessions with the warriors. He taught Sarah everything he had learned about the humans and their place in the spirit realm. And every night, he entered his glowing trance and reached out to the golden light that waited for him in the darkness. The humans were eager to learn about Talvari culture. They asked questions about the sacred groves and the ancient rituals. They wanted to understand how the shamans accessed the spirit realm without technology. In return, they shared their own history. They told stories of their struggles and their mistakes. They admitted their flaws with an honesty that surprised Keller. They did not pretend to be perfect beings. They simply tried to be better than they had been before. When the ship finally appeared in the sky above the forest, the entire tribe gathered to watch. It descended slowly, its surface gleaming in the light of the 3 moons. Keller stood at the front of the crowd with Sarah at his side. His heart was beating fast, but his mind was calm. He had seen these beings in the spirit realm. He knew their thoughts and their intentions. They came in peace. The ship landed softly in a clearing near the sacred grove. A door opened and figures emerged. They looked exactly as Keller had seen them in his visions. 2 arms, 2 eyes, skin in various shades. They moved carefully, their hands empty and open to show they carried no weapons. The leader of the humans stepped forward. She was a tall woman with dark skin and silver hair. Her eyes were kind and filled with wonder as she looked at Keller and his people. She spoke words that Keller's ears could not understand, but his spirit form recognized their meaning instantly. She was offering greetings. She was offering friendship. She was asking permission to stay. Keller walked forward to meet her. Behind him, his people held their breath. This was the moment when everything changed. This was the moment when the Talvari stopped being alone in the universe and became part of something much larger. He reached out his blue hand. The human woman reached out her brown one. Their fingers touched, and Keller felt the warmth of her consciousness brushing against his own. In the spirit realm, the golden light of humanity blazed brighter than ever before. And somewhere in that infinite darkness, 2 more voices joined the great chorus of minds singing across the stars.